Hello and welcome to the Malika Writes channel. My name is Malika Writes, and today we shall be talking about a subject that I have been very interested in for a long time, and I've been away doing a lot of research for this particular topic. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Eowyn's quote from The Two Towers is one that I think really summarizes today's video. And the quote is, "Women of this country learnt long ago that those without swords can still die upon them." It would be easy to use this quote to discuss feminism, but that is a beast for another day. Instead, I've always looked at this quote as one that speaks to more than just women's issues. Eowyn is a human woman in a very real world. Yes, her world occasionally touches the supernatural, but based on the culture of the people of Rohan, they live very much in the physical and very tangible world. The issues they deal with are very real and could easily exist outside of the supernatural world in the secular world. In Eowyn's world, there are no heroes coming to save damsels in distress. The men do not swing massive swords twice their body weight, berserk, and they live and they die nameless and forgotten. The only members of the Rohirrim that we actually see and spend time with are nobility. The only exception being when Aragorn, who's part of the supernatural world, being a member of the Dunedain and living an astronomical amount of years, spends time with a peasant boy who has been enlisted into the army. This is the real world and everyone has to endure it regardless of age or gender. The quote acts as a signal to the viewer that we are no longer in the fey realm of hobbits and elves and dwarves. Up to this point, we've never seen a woman in direct combat. The closest we've gotten is Arwen fleeing on a horse and holding up a sword that she never actually uses before calling in a river to do the heavy lifting. Arwen belongs to the fey realm, a place where such a feat is possible, but Eowyn doesn't. The women in her world don't pick up swords because it's a fun thing to do, or go on processions through the woods because for them it could mean risking death. They wield swords because they have to. The beauty of life is not obvious to them. Even during times of war, we see them performing mundane tasks and serving a king who is going senile. It's very different from Rivendell and the Shire. Tolkien captures this well, but for the sake of The Lord of the Rings being a fairly family-friendly book, he doesn't show how bad it actually is. We'll let Berserk do that in the next video that I'm going to do on this topic. This brings me to the danger of the Fey realm, which is the topic for our discussion. This topic is something that I really want to delve into, so I'm probably going to split this video into two parts, with the first part using The Lord of the Rings as its case study, and the second part using the anime Berserk as its case study. The Fey realm, in the storybook sense, is a world that lies parallel to the physical realm. At times they may overlap, but usually they remain parallel to each other. This realm is filled with everything from wonder to complete nightmare fuel. It is the realm of shadows and possibilities from which chaos constantly flows. In real life, the Fey realm is the collective dream of humanity. It is the pool of imagination into which we escape in order to find relief from the real world. Whereas in the story, a portal to the Fey realm may be a fairy circle in the forest, but in real life, that portal will probably be a book or a movie or a mythological story. Eddie Murphy, during his time as a comedian, has this really funny bit about Italians after they watch the movie Rocky. Some of you will know, and that's a really funny bit. I really like that particular bit. Eddie Murphy was great. But in the story, he sort of describes the confidence of a particular Italian character after leaving the movie theatre, commenting on how this person believed that the movie was real. The punchline of the joke is that the 5'4" guy ends up in the hospital after thinking he can take on a 6'5" black guy. I hope by now you see where I'm going with this. There is nothing wrong with escapism. It can give us hope in dark places and inspire us to seek out better ways to live our lives, but there is a danger to the fey realm. Too much escapism can mean wasting your life away in fantasy. The insult levied at many young men these days is that they are mama's boys who live in their mother's basement playing video games where they get to pretend they're useful and competent. It's pretty harsh. It's never been directed at me, but I've heard it been directed at other people in less calm and polite terms, and yeah, it's a burn. But there is something to learn from this insult. The insult obviously is meant to hurt, but it's targeting something very specific. Not just in men, but it's a tendency in people to waste their lives away in a dream. A video game isn't real, but in a few minutes, or if you're really down bad, a few hours, you can get filled with a sense of achievement when you battle monsters or other people you deem unworthy, or even opposing teams. You feel like you've done something, and it's a great feeling. The thing about the Fae realm is that it's not actually real, so whatever you do in there doesn't really matter. Let's not pretend that video game chat rooms actually teach you social skills. I've been in those chat rooms and you can't tell me anything. So you're not going to go to the post and find a magical letter telling you you're a wizard and now you're whisked away to Hogwarts to escape your life with the muggles. You're not going to travel to the English countryside and find hobbits, and you're not going to find them in New Zealand either before anyone comments that, oh, go to New Zealand, they're hobbit holes. You're not going to find hobbits. They're not real, and no matter how much you wish they were real, they're never going to be real. What is real is life. That's the big bad dragon. But unfortunately, a lot of people run away from that dragon and comfort themselves with dreams of being a knight that can defeat the storybook dragon, while life reduces everything they hold dear to cinders. By the time they come out of the dream, the world has passed them by. They're stuck with potential, but never actually managed to manifest it because they've wasted too much time daydreaming. It's basically the story of the man who followed the fairy woman into the Fae realm, and by the time he came back, hundreds of years had passed, and everyone he knew and loved, and even the place he came from had changed. The people he knew and loved were dead, and the place had changed because places change. And no one knew him or really cared to get to know him because he's now essentially a stranger. So coming back to the Eowyn quote to close this video up, she says the women of this country learnt long ago that those without swords can still die upon them. Maybe long ago these women thought some hero or prince or king would save them, until they were impaled with a sword and rudely reminded that they don't live in the Fae realm. They live in the real world, and those who don't face up to it will have to face the consequences of that daydreaming. So that's the end of part 1 of this video. I didn't want to make it too long because we have a lot to cover, and with Lord of the Rings I think it really sets up the parallels between the real world and the Fae world properly. But I think to really look at the consequences and how dire they can be, we need to go to something a little bit more gritty. So in the next video we'll be going to one of my favorite animes, Berserk, and looking at how the Fae realm is really dangerous and how it can almost turn you into something of a monster. So tune in next time for that video, and I hope that you have enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I hope you have a lovely day. This has been the Malika Writes channel.